Yes. Yes, this team, man. I mean, look, this has been such a fun season. Such a fun year covering this team. And you go, you you're down 3-1, you get the comeback. I have said this in every single video, just about, even if it's not whatever. I have said over and over and over again that this team has the response. The response is the biggest difference between the past 10 years of this team until this season. And even last year was one of the worst ones out of all of it. And even the year before that was one of the worst in obviously franchise history. But that was horrific. And now, I've said this over and over and over again. The response, the fight, they have balls, grit, whatever you want to call it, guts. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you call it. They have it, and they're able to do it. They play with that style. They get a 4-3 win in Minnesota in overtime. Down 3-1 in the third period. You come back, you get 2 goals. Tyson Forrester finally gets on the board. Joel FARABEE with 2 goals. Jamie Drysdale was very impressive. Again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. The power play, which suddenly is coming alive. 4 games in a row with 4 goals. I mean, who would have thought that the power play would actually be doing something up until this point? It's just another fun win for this team, and I'm so pumped. I mean, it happens, and it's like. And I don't even want to say it. It sounds so stupid, but it's like magical, like how they're able to come back in these games and stay in it, and it's exciting to be a Flyers fan again. It's exciting to watch these games. I don't want to sit here and want to slam my head into a wall by the end of the first period anymore. Like, I am enjoying it. I'm much more interested than I was. Not saying I wasn't at all, because obviously the content and everything is the main part of it, and all that it's for you guys, and I love doing it. And but oh my god, I mean, what a fun win. So let's get into this one. Flyers. Again, like I said, a 4-3 win in overtime in Minnesota. This was a tough one, because when you look at this trip and you look at the past couple of games, it was 5 points out of a possible 8. You get the win against Montreal. You get this one. I mean, a lot of the games are going to overtime lately, and you don't have a really easy game tomorrow. You got the Jets. They've won 8 in a row. That building has not really been that great to the Flyers in really any of the team's history. The Jets, I mean, the Flyers have had some good games against the Jets, but it's tough, I think, because Winnipeg is obviously one of those teams that has kind of bounced around these past couple of years with being, a better team, and at least trying to be a better team, and they had some struggles, right, with bonus, and they had a really good start last year, and there was a one point around January they came to Philly, and they were like one of the better games. They were one of the better teams, and they had one of their better games of the season. The Flyers did against the Jets. They came back and ended up losing it. And then when you went into the rest of the year, the Jets kind of fell apart. So it's tough. I do think there are some things with the Flyers. And again, when you're looking at this, I was trying to pull up the record here. So they're 5 wins, 7 losses, 0 ties, and 2 overtime losses on the road against the Jets. Now, that is all time. That is, with 80s and all that too. So that's all time. So that's the other thing. They're on an 8-game winning streak. They're one of the best teams in the league. They haven't given up under, I believe it was over 3 goals in the game is in the last 23 games. I mean, that's going to be a really tough task tomorrow. If you could get a point out of that one, I'd be happy. But we'll see. I mean, that's a whole different beast, against the Jets. But let's talk about tonight. There's a little bit of a switch up in the lines. Bobby Brink comes out, Nick Delorier comes in. Look, I think everybody knows my answer here. I'm not a fan of that. Brink is from Minnesota. This is the 3rd time that Tortorella has done that. Frost in Toronto, Sanheim in Calgary, now Bobby Brink in Minnesota. it's not right. It just isn't. I know he wants to sit there and say, "Oh, well, just because of everything that's going on." No, you probably could have sat Brink last game if you wanted to, because I personally thought Brink kind of falling off a little bit. I know Forza's talked about the checking. I don't. Again, I said this on Four Fly Guys. I don't know how much checking you want a guy like Brink to be doing, but I mean, it's tough. Um, Look, I just look at this with the lines and everything, and I'm like, and everyone's like, oh well, some of the last games against Minnesota, they've had a lot of fights, and they've kind of gone back and forth, and Sealer and McEwen and all these other guys have fought in the past couple of years, and all this stuff. Sure, that's great, but you have a guy named Garnet Hathaway who is also playing in your lineup too, who can do the same thing Nick Deloria does. So I don't understand, if what you need, because Hathaway is playing higher in the lineup. I guess they don't want to take the chance. Whatever, that doesn't make any sense to me. To sit a guy like Brink, I'm fine with a 1-game reset, but why did you have to do it in Minnesota? That just it's not right. It just isn't. So that's obviously a whole different thing. Farabee, Couturier connecting Tippett, Frost, Atkinson, Forrester, Lawton, and Hathaway, and then Delorier and Paling. Sanheim and Drysdale, very good tonight as well. York, Walker, Sealer, and Risto, and Zamula. So again, 11 and 7. Flyers are probably going to be doing that for a good while, because really no defenseman's playing bad. Obviously, you had Drysdale, who's come in and he was really good last game, obviously, really good tonight. And Carter Hart was in net for the Flyers in this one. So first period, it was Flyers had a couple of chances early. They moved the puck. I thought they, generated some good zone time. I mean, they had a ton of pressure in the Wild end for a good chunk of it. And I the more I was watching it, and I'm thinking of it, and I'm like, all right, well, maybe this is the game that they get like an early goal, they kind of pounce on that, and then they get another one maybe a couple minutes later, and then they kind of blow this one open a little bit. No, that was not the case. The Wild get the first power play of the game. They ended up having a ton of chances. And when I was looking at the stats this morning, I was doing the graphic for our article over at MayorMedia.hockey, MayorMediaCo.hockey. Obviously, that's our website. Check all that out for all of our written content. I was doing that, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, all right, the Wild, they're kind of in the middle here. I'm like, their power play isn't that great. 23rd in the league up until that point. And I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, this might be one of those games where the Flyers can kind of really, kind of dominate here, or excuse me, 21st in the league. They're 31st in faceoffs coming in into this one. PK's 30th. Goals for and is 24th, and goals against is 22nd. They're not a good team. They struggled. They had a really bad start. They fired Dean Evison. I'm like, this is one you got to kind of take advantage of. And they didn't really do that in the first period. I mean, it wasn't a great first. Again, a ton of watching. Hart made some good saves. Hart was the reason it was no score. And then the Wild obviously get one going into the second period, and that's not a goal. The close the hand on the puck, I mean, that's a penalty, and the face-off dot. So why is it not a penalty when he clearly threw it, Foligno? That's frustrating. I mean, it's not the best goal for Hart either, because it deflected and went past his pad, and it's one. It's just a bad bounce too. So that was part of it. And then again, you get the closing the hand on the puck, throwing it forward, and I'm just like that's a delay game, but okay, it counts. But again, the response, it comes up every time I make a video, every game, everything. And they come back. Joel Farabee gets on the board. Beautiful pass from Sean Couturier off the wall. Then Travis Konecny feeds it through the feet, and the tip from Farabee. It was gorgeous. I mean, just a gorgeous goal. So the Flyers tied at 1. They did have some chances after that. I really did like the second period. They had a 3-on-1 before that. They didn't shoot. And I thought the biggest problem was they had their chances in the first period, early in the second, whatever. They just weren't getting shots off. They were trying to kind of dangle in, get closer to the net, maybe make the chance better than it was. But Minnesota got back in time, and they couldn't get any shots off. And that's a problem, especially when you're down. You don't really have a ton of chances for a while, or shots or whatever. And then you get one and you don't get a shot on net. So it's frustrating. You get a 3-on-1. for about half the ice, and Coots kind of circles around. They send it around a couple of times, couldn't get anything set up. Flyers went back the other way, forced a turnover, and then they get the goal from FARABEE to tie it at 1. Zamula, he gets beat 1-on-1, and there was a chance for Goligoski. That was kind of what I think Torts was talking about. It was a play right at the blue line. It wasn't anything crazy. It didn't lead to anything. It was a good chance for Goligoski. It was maybe 20, 30 seconds later. Maybe 15. I might be over-exaggerating that a little bit. But they ended up cycling it around, and they get the chance, and it was a play where just like they chipped it by Zamula, and he couldn't really react as quick. He just kind of sat there for a minute. And I was like, okay, I think that's kind of what Torts is talking about, is like, and then this is something that I agree with Torts, is the fact that Zamula has some really high highs and then some really low lows, and like there's been it's right there in front of you. He's very good on the power play. He's been very good on the power play. He gets the assist, the shot for the tip, the whole thing, right? Then there's defensively, he's a little off. Again, he's still a younger player. Obviously he is a guy that doesn't have like a ton of NHL experience, outside of really this season. 59 career games. I believe tonight was game 60 for him in the NHL, and he's bounced up and down with the Flyers, Lehigh Valley, the whole thing. I mean, they were really scared to call him up because they thought he'd get hurt. I mean, he's 23, so he's gonna obviously still take some time, right? And to play in the NHL. So look, we'll see. I mean, that's stuff that you can kind of adapt and change throughout a year. And Brad Shaw's been very good with guys, especially the D was with Risto, obviously has been the big one. Sanheim is another one. I'm sure there's been influence on that. Cam York. Now you have Drysdale to the mix, Samula, Sealer, right? I mean, everyone on the D has played well. Walker. So, you have that. And I think there are games when Zamula can kind of put it all together. And again, it's just a consistency thing. That's the biggest thing with this team, is that, one of the guys that gets on the board here, I'll talk about him in a minute. Flyers get a power play. It was drawn by Atkinson. Some good movement. They won some puck battles. Drysdale just missed a pass in tight. What a play to create space from Jamie Drysdale. I mean, and most guys you see kind of like curl back at the point and just shoot it. He goes all the way over to the open ice, finds it, uses his speed, and then just has great hockey sense to put the puck in a scoring area. No one was there and no stick got on it, but ended up going through the blue paint. But I mean, a really, really nice play from Drysdale. They were just all over Minnesota. And then unfortunately, Drysdale took a tripping penalty. It was a tough one because I thought he did get hit hard in the Flyers end. I think he was a little upset about that. He tried to make a play, tripped over the stick. So it's unfortunate. It is a bad penalty because it's a 1-1 game. It's later in the second period. It's like, all right. But the Wild power play was totally different from the one in the first. And I want to retract that. And really, it's not. I don't think it's a bad penalty. I think it's just a bad timing of a penalty. I'll say that. They really didn't give them anything though, and they ended up getting a power play. Too many men on the Wild. They had like a minute 22 or something about that. Maybe minute 23, 24, whatever it was, on the power play there for the rest of it for the Flyers. Wild had a couple of chances late. We go into the third, and this is where it started. And I was just like, all right, if we're watching this game maybe 3 years ago, that's like a 5-2, like 5-3 loss, like a late goal or something like that. Like that's just a loss, and it just expands. And then like that 3-1 goal, there's like a 4-1 goal maybe 2 minutes later, and it's just an absolute outburst, right? But that doesn't happen because what this team is able to do, and it kind of ties into what the other night was, the game against Calgary. It's a special Flyers win because you had grit, you came back. It just felt like one of the ones that they were just destined to win, and I didn't feel that way about tonight, but this is what I'm talking about. This still plays into the whole response thing because they've had it all year, and it's been great to see. So again, like I said, Wild get one, tough one for Hart. I mean, Hartman would score, and I'm looking at this one, and I'm just like, he's on the pad. He's got the pad on the post, the RVH thing. He's kind of in it. He's kind of not. He's just like, why are you so deep in your net? The puck is at the low point of the circle. There's really no angle to shoot there unless you're in that position, and it ends up going in. So it's 2-1. Then Boldy scores a couple minutes later, 3-1. I'm like, all right, this one might be over. And I'm like, great. So this is a regulation loss. Then you got to play Winnipeg tomorrow, which that entire game makes me want to puke just thinking about it because of how good they've been and everything. And now I'm just like, oh. And then Tyson Forrester finally woke up. Finally. Look, I was saying for a while I thought Forrester should have got a reset. I still, if this doesn't turn into anything, if this goal does not turn into any sort of stretch of play more than maybe 3-4 games where Forrester puts it together, he has to sit a game. You can't keep doing that. How is that helping him? How does that help anybody else? How does that help your locker room when you have guys like Frost and Brink and whoever else you want to put in that mix of guys that get sat that are on the same age and still go through that and go through the same issues of not scoring, whatever, and then you get that. Like it's just not good. But for Forrester, I am very glad because I'm glad he's making me look like an idiot. I have said that all year. I have no problem admitting I was wrong. None. And I'm glad that he does it because it's a goal that I feel like, the past couple of games with Forrester, he hasn't been able to get the shot off. Or I shouldn't say get the shot off, but maybe a little more reluctant to shoot because of what's been going on. And he gets it off. It's a really good pass from Lawton. And it's a good spot to find him in a one-timer position. It's kind of like a partial 2-on-1 a little bit because if Lawton got a step, he might have had a chance to skate in more, but it was still a good pass anyway. And ends up, finding Forrester 3-2. I'm like, all right. The first line of the night was really buzzing. The Tippett Couturier connecting line. They were really good all game. I mean, Coots had some really good defensive plays. Again, like I said, like the Flyers, for most of this one, again, they battled. They had a ton of zone time and pressure, especially in the second period. They did have it in the third as well. 51.8% on the faceoff, a little off of 52% for the game. So it was two really bad faceoff teams as well that kind of went into it. And, that was part of it. So they get one back and then Tippett scores. I mean, what a play, what a pass from connecting. Drysdale gets a point. So that's 2 points in 2 games, 2 assists for him in his early Flyers career so far. And I mean, what a shot from Tippett. I mean, there was a delayed penalty. The Flyers had drawn one. I believe it was Connecting who drew it. And they cycled it around. They had a good pressure in the offensive zone. They find it to Tippett, and he finds the sweet spot right under the glove of Fleury. Looked like right above the pad. I mean, it's just a really good shot. And again, it's Tippett's coming alive. He's coming alive. I mean, he's got goals in 3 straight games. That's his 15th on the year. It's really good to see because I know there was people tweeting about him getting traded for Zegras and this whole thing. I'm like, I'm not ready to give up on Tippett. I'm not. I'm sorry. I can't. I mean, though, I think the Flyers like him too much to begin with, and B, I'm just like, we already know the talent the guy has. Zegras would not work here with Tortorella is the thing. It just wouldn't work. I don't even have to explain that. Torts has already made his comments pretty public about that. So, I mean, again, it's really good to see for Tippett too, and they get 2 guys who, in Forrester and Tippett, who have scored. But I think the big thing out of this game is Joel Farabee. Farabee had 4, 5, 6 chances to score last game. He had the one in the blue paint. I believe he had. Did he hit the post? I can't remember. But he had a ton of chances last game against Montreal, and he probably could have had 2, 3 goals. He might have been able to have a hat trick, to be honest with you. And he had the one in the blue paint right before Frost had tied it on the power play, and then obviously they ended up winning that one in a shootout. But yeah, I mean, really good for Farabee. And again, we go to overtime. The Flyers, they come all the way back. Boldy had a chance until he almost went in. They get a power play. Atkinson draws a trip. I thought he had a solid game tonight, Atkinson. But again, you need something. I need a goal. I need something. I mean, I need points. Like, you're really relying on a lot of top guys, and thankfully you get a goal from Forrester, you get a goal from Tippett. Hopefully you can kind of carry that in here a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you get the power play. They had a ton of chances. Eriksson Ek went down the other end of the ice, and Jamie Drysdale made a great play, getting back on the back check with the stick. Flyers went down the other way. They set it up. Drysdale gets off the ice. Tippett comes on. They set it up. Farabee parks it right in front of Fleury, right in his kitchen, and tips it. Good shot from Zamula. They tried that. Connecting had tried it before with Couturier, and he ended up missing it, and it was just a high chest lay for Fleury. But still, I mean, it's like a set play that they tried because the tip in front goes in for FARABEE, his second of the game, and the Flyers win it 4-3 in overtime. I mean, a really good game tonight. I know this is a longer video. I haven't done one of these in a while. So yeah, I mean, thanks everybody again for all the support as always. Really solid win. Maher Media has been really doing really well, so I really do appreciate that. If you are new here and you're new checking out the Flyers or anything that we do, thanks everybody, for all the support as always, and hopefully you enjoyed watching this video. If you don't follow us on socials, check all that out. That's on the About page of the channel here. And yeah, one thing I do want to say too is that PHI Heritage is another brand that we had started. I personally run the account. It's on Twitter and it's on Instagram or X. Excuse me, I should say X instead of Twitter, I guess. It is all things Flyers history. There's a ton of stuff that we do over there. It's been a lot of fun running that so far. We just started that this month in January 1st. So check that out again. Thanks everybody again for all the support as always. And I will talk to you all again soon.